Act 1. The Awakening. Pause this video right now. I need you to do something before we begin. Grab a piece of paper or open your notes app and write down your biggest goal, the one thing you want to achieve more than anything else right now. Go ahead. I'll wait. Done? Good. Here's what you need to know. There is a 96% chance that what you just wrote down will never happen. Not because you lack talent, not because you're not smart enough, not even because you don't want it badly enough, but because of how you just thought about it. The way you were taught to pursue goals is designed to make you fail. In the next 2 hours, I'm going to reprogram how you approach achievement. This isn't a motivation video. You won't hear any rah-rah speeches. This is architecture. This is systems thinking. This is how the top 1% actually operate. By the end, you'll have a complete blueprint that makes success inevitable. But I need to warn you, some of what you're about to learn will contradict everything you've been told about goals. If you're comfortable where you are, close this video now. If you're ready to join the 1%, let's begin. Why you're failing, the autopsy. Before we build the right system, we need to understand why the old one fails. Let me show you something. Look at that goal you wrote down. I'm willing to bet it looks something like this. I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to make $100,000. I want to write a book. Here's the problem. These are terminal goals, endpoints, finish lines. And terminal goals have a fatal flaw. Let's say you actually achieve it. You lose the 30 pounds. Then what? The goal is gone. The motivation is gone. The system you built disappears. And within 6 months, studies show that 80% of people are back where they started. Because you never changed who you are. You just changed what you did temporarily. The 1% don't chase endpoints. They chase identity shifts. They don't say, I want to lose 30 pounds. They say, I want to become an athlete. Someone who moves their body daily and fuels it properly. See the difference? One is a destination. The other is a transformation. One ends. The other evolves. This is the terminal goal fallacy, and it's why most goals die within 90 days. But it gets worse, because even if you avoid that trap, there are 3 mistakes that kill goals before they even have a chance. Let me show you the big 3, starting from number 3. Mistake number 3, confusing activity with progress. Being busy is not the same as being effective. I see this everywhere. Someone wants to build a business, so they spend 3 months designing a logo, creating business cards, building the perfect website. They feel productive. They're doing things. But they haven't made a single sale. They haven't talked to a single customer. Activity, not progress. The 1% ask one question constantly. Is this moving me toward the goal, or is this just making me feel busy? They're ruthless about eliminating fake work. If you want to write a book, writing is progress. Researching the perfect writing app is activity. If you want to lose weight, working out is progress. Watching fitness videos is activity. Learn the difference, or you'll stay busy forever and achieve nothing. Mistake number 2. This one's even more dangerous. Building systems that only work when you're motivated. Here's the truth that no one wants to hear. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It's an emotion. And you cannot build a life-changing goal on the foundation of an emotion. Motivation gets you started. That's it. That's all it's good for. On January 1st, you're fired up. You can conquer the world. By January 23rd, you're tired. You had a bad day. You don't feel like it. And if your system requires motivation to work, it stops working. The 1% build systems that function without motivation. They design their environment so the right choice is the easy choice. They remove friction. They automate decisions. They create forcing functions. We'll cover exactly how to do this in Act 2, but for now, know this. If your goal depends on willpower, it's already dead. And here's the big one. Mistake number 1. Pursuing someone else's goal. This is the hardest truth to accept, because you probably don't even realize you're doing it. You see someone successful on social media. They're fit, rich, traveling the world. And something in your brain says, I want that. But do you? Or do you just want what they have because society told you that's what success looks like? Maybe you want to be a lawyer because your parents are lawyers. Maybe you want to lose weight because Instagram says you should look a certain way. Maybe you want to make $1 million because everyone else is chasing it. But is it your goal? Or is it borrowed desire? The 1% are brutally honest with themselves about this. They ask, if no one would ever know about this achievement, would I still want it? If the answer is no, it's not your goal, it's your ego, or your insecurity, or social conditioning. And you will never achieve a goal you don't actually want. Your subconscious will sabotage you at every turn. So before you go any further, ask yourself, is this truly my goal, or am I performing for an audience? Case study, the tale of 2 people. Let me show you what all 3 mistakes look like in real life. Meet person A and person B. They both have the same goal, get in shape. Person A. Person A is fired up. January 1st hits, and they're ready. They buy a gym membership, new workout clothes, meal prep containers, a fitness tracker. They write down their goal, lose 30 pounds by summer. They commit to going to the gym 5 times a week. Week 1? They crush it. 5 workouts, eating clean, feeling amazing. Week 2? Still going strong, 4 workouts, pretty good. Week 3? Life gets busy, work stress, social events. They make it to the gym twice. Week 4? Once, maybe. By February, the gym membership is collecting dust. The meal prep containers are in the back of the cabinet. What happened? Mistake number 3, activity over progress. They bought all the gear, felt productive, but never built the habit. Mistake number 2, motivation-dependent system. When motivation faded, the system collapsed. Mistake number 1, terminal goal. Lose 30 pounds, an endpoint, not an identity. Now let's look at person B. They have the same goal, but a completely different approach. They don't write lose 30 pounds. They write become someone who prioritizes health and movement. Identity-based, not endpoint-based. They don't rely on motivation. They design their environment. They put their workout clothes next to their bed, so they see them first thing in the morning. They schedule workouts at 6 a.m. before life gets in the way. They don't commit to 5 times a week. They commit to 3, realistic, sustainable. They track 1 metric. Did I move my body today? Yes or no? Progress, not activity. Week 3 hits. Work gets stressful, but person B still works out. Why? Because it's not about motivation. It's about architecture. The alarm goes off. The clothes are right there. The decision is already made. 6 months later, person B has lost 35 pounds. But more importantly, they've become a different person. Someone who works out even on hard days. Someone who actually enjoys movement. That's the difference between the 99% and the 1%. Here's the first truth bomb. Your problem isn't that you lack goals. Your problem is that you have too many. The 1% don't try to achieve more goals. They achieve the right goals. And they do it by building systems, not relying on wishes. Which brings us to the framework that governs everything. The 1% secret, the framework. Imagine an iceberg. What you see above the water, that's maybe 10% of it. The other 90% hidden beneath the surface. Goals work the same way. The iceberg principle. Above the water, what everyone sees and talks about, motivation, willpower, goal-setting techniques, vision boards, affirmations, morning routines. That's where the 99% spend all their time. They read another book about motivation, watch another video about hustle, buy another planner. And they wonder why nothing changes. Below the water, what no one talks about. Architecture, asymmetry, algorithms. This is where the 1% operate. And this is what we're going to build together over the next 2 hours. I call it the 3 A's framework. Master these 3 concepts, and goals become inevitable. The 3 A's framework. Let me break down each one. 1. Architecture. Number 1, architecture. Architecture is about designing systems where success is inevitable. Not hoping you'll feel motivated, not relying on willpower. Building an environment where the right choice is the easy choice. Let me give you an example. You want to read more. Classic goal. The 99% approach. I'm going to read for 30 minutes before bed every night. I just need to be more disciplined. 2 days later, they're scrolling their phone instead. The 1% approach. I'm going to architect my environment so reading becomes automatic. What does that look like? They put books on their nightstand, 3 of them, so they're always visible. They plug their phone charger in the bathroom, not the bedroom. They remove the TV from the bedroom entirely. They set an alarm 30 minutes before bed that says, reading time. Now think about the difference. Person A has to fight temptation every night. Phone right there, TV right there, willpower depleting by the second. Person B doesn't even have a fight. The phone is in another room, the TV doesn't exist, the book is right in front of them. Same goal, completely different architecture. That's the power of this. You're not trying to become more disciplined, you're making discipline unnecessary. Architecture means design the path of least resistance toward your goal. 2. Asymmetry. Number 2, asymmetry. Asymmetry is about creating unfair advantages. Not all effort is created equal. Some actions produce 10 times the results of others. The 99% work hard. The 1% work asymmetrically. Let me show you what I mean. 2 people both want to grow their business. Person A works 12 hours a day, answering every email, taking every meeting, doing everything themselves. Person B works 6 hours a day, but they spend those 6 hours on the 20% of activities that generate 80% of results. They ignore most emails, they decline most meetings, they delegate aggressively. Person B earns 3 times what Person A earns. Why? Asymmetry. They identified their high-leverage activities and went all in on those. This is the 80-20 principle on steroids. Find the few actions that create disproportionate results. Do more of those. Ruthlessly eliminate everything else. We'll dive deep into how to find your 20% in Act 3. But for now, understand this. Hard work without leverage is just hard. 3. Algorithms. Algorithms are decision-making frameworks that run on autopilot. The 99% make every decision from scratch, every single day. Should I work out? Should I eat healthy? Should I work on my goal? Every decision burns willpower. The 1% build algorithms, pre-made decisions. Here's a simple one. Every morning, before checking your phone, ask yourself one question. What is the one thing I can do today that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? That's it. That's your algorithm. You don't have to think about what to prioritize. The algorithm tells you. Another example. Somebody asks you to take a meeting. Instead of agonizing over the decision, you run it through your algorithm. Does this directly move me toward my primary goal? Yes or no? If no, decline. Every time. No exceptions. See how this works? Decisions become automatic. You're not using willpower. You're following a system. The 1% build these algorithms for everything. What to eat, when to work, how to spend money, who to spend time with. They decide once, then execute 1,000 times. And this is why they accomplish so much while seeming so relaxed. They're not making 100 decisions a day, they're executing 10 algorithms. So there you have it, the 3 A's. Architecture, build systems where success is inevitable. Asymmetry, create unfair advantages through leverage. Algorithms, automate decisions to preserve willpower. Master these three, and goal achievement becomes a foregone conclusion. But before we build your system, we need to make sure you're building it around the right goal. Because the 1% don't just achieve goals faster, they choose better goals to begin with. Which brings us to the most important exercise in this entire masterclass: the goal selection game. Here's something nobody tells you. Choosing the wrong goal is worse than having no goal at all. Because a wrong goal steals your time, energy, and attention, and gives you nothing in return. So before we go any further, we need to make sure you're pursuing something that actually matters. The one goal rule. I want you to do another exercise. Look at that goal you wrote down at the beginning. Now I want you to imagine I'm forcing you to make a choice. If you could only achieve one goal in the next 12 months, which one would it be? Not 3 goals, not 5 goals, 1. What if I told you, you can have this one goal, guaranteed success, but you have to give up all the others for a year? What would you choose? That hesitation you just felt? That's your brain realizing most of your goals are distractions. The truth is, you don't have 10 goals. You have one goal, and 9 distractions pretending to be goals. The 1% are ruthless about this. They don't scatter their focus across 10 targets. They find the one thing that matters most and go all in. Because focus is finite, and every goal you add dilutes your chance of achieving any of them. So right now, decide. What's your one goal? Everything else in this masterclass is getting built around that. The regret minimization framework. But how do you know if you chose the right one? Here's the framework that cuts through all the noise. I call it the regret minimization framework. Jeff Bezos used this exact process when deciding whether to start Amazon. Here's how it works. Imagine yourself at 80 years old. You're sitting in a rocking chair, looking back on your life. What would you regret not having done? Not what would be impressive to others. Not what would make you money. What would you regret? When Bezos was deciding whether to leave his stable Wall Street job to start an internet bookstore, he asked himself this: will I regret not trying this, even if I fail? The answer was yes, so he did it. Now you try. Look at your goal. Imagine you're 80 years old and you never pursued it. How do you feel? If the answer is, I'd be fine, there are other things, it's not your real goal. If the answer is, I'd be devastated, I'd always wonder what if, that's it, that's the one. This framework strips away all the external noise, social pressure, fear of judgment, comparison, and leaves you with one simple question: what would make your life feel complete? The anti-goal list. Now here's the counterintuitive part. You need to create an anti-goal list. These are goals you will explicitly not pursue this year. Why? Because focus comes from subtraction, not addition. Let me give you an example. Let's say your one goal is build a profitable business. Your anti-goal list might look like this: I will not pursue six-pack abs this year. I will not learn a new language. I will not remodel my house. Now, are those bad goals? No, they're just not the goal. And if you try to do all of them at once, you'll achieve none of them. The 1% understand something the 99% don't. Every yes to a new goal is a no to your main goal. Because time, energy, and attention are zero-sum. You can't be world-class at 5 things simultaneously. You can be world-class at one thing while maintaining 2 or 3 others. So choose. What are you willing to put on the anti-goal list for the next 12 months? I know this is uncomfortable. It feels like you're giving up. But you're not giving up. You're gaining clarity. And clarity is the ultimate competitive advantage. One final question before we move into Act 2. This is the question that separates dreamers from achievers. What would need to be true about you for this goal to be inevitable? Not what would you need to do. What would you need to be? If your goal is to make $100,000 a year, the question isn't, what actions will get me there? The question is, who do I need to become to be the type of person who earns that naturally? Maybe you need to become someone who delivers $100,000 of value to the market. If your goal is to get in the best shape of your life, you need to become someone who prioritizes movement, who sees exercise as non-negotiable, who fuels their body properly. This is the identity shift we talked about earlier. And here's the beautiful part. When you focus on becoming that person, the goal takes care of itself. So write this down. I am becoming someone who, fill in that blank. That's your North Star. All right, you've identified your one goal. You've run it through the regret minimization framework. You've created your anti-goal list. You know who you need to become. Now it's time to build the machine. In Act 2, we're going to architect the system that makes achievement automatic. This is where theory becomes practice. Let's go. Act 2. The Inner War. You've seen the truth now. You understand why 99% of people fail at their goals. You know the 3 fatal mistakes. You've identified your one goal. You've started thinking about who you need to become. But here's what I haven't told you yet. None of that matters if you lose the war inside your head. Because achieving any meaningful goal requires you to fight a battle. Every single day. Not against the world. Not against circumstances. Not against other people. Against yourself. This is the war nobody talks about. The inner war. And in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to win it. Let me introduce you to your 2 worst enemies. They live inside your head. They've been there your whole life. And they're fighting for control of your future. The first one is your present self. Your present self only cares about one thing. Comfort. Right now, it wants to sleep in. It wants to skip the workout. It wants to scroll social media instead of doing the work. Your present self is not evil. It's just wired for survival, for conservation of energy, for avoiding pain. 10,000 years ago, this made sense. Resources were scarce. Danger was everywhere. Conserving energy kept you alive. But today, that same wiring is destroying your potential. Your present self whispers things like, you can start tomorrow. One day off won't hurt. You deserve a break. This is too hard. Maybe this isn't for you. Sound familiar? That voice has killed more dreams than failure ever has. Now meet the second version of you, your future self. Your future self is the person you could become, the person who achieved the goal, the person living the life you want. Your future self is strong, disciplined, successful, free. But here's the problem. Your future self doesn't exist yet. It has no voice, no power, no presence. It's just a possibility, a ghost. And every single day, your present self and your future self go to war. When the alarm goes off at 5 a.m., who wins? When you're tired and don't feel like working on your goal, who wins? When there's a choice between easy and hard, who wins? Most people let their present self win. Every time. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Here's the truth that changed my life. Every decision you make is a vote. A vote for your present self or your future self. Skip the workout? Vote for present self. Do the workout anyway? Vote for future self. Hit snooze? Present self. Get up anyway? Future self. Eat the junk food? Present self. Stick to the plan? Future self. Every vote counts, and whichever version gets the most votes, that's who you become. The question is, who's winning your election? Most people think they're one bad day away from failure. They're not. They're 1,000 small votes away from failure. 1,000 tiny decisions where present self won. I'll do it later. Vote. Just this once. Vote. It doesn't matter. Vote. 1,000 votes. And suddenly a year has passed. Nothing changed, and they don't even know how it happened. It happened one vote at a time. So how do you make future self win? You have to make future self real, present, powerful. Right now, your future self is abstract, distant, easy to ignore. We need to change that. Here's an exercise that sounds simple, but will transform everything. Write a letter from your future self. Not to your future self. From your future self. Imagine it's 5 years from now. You achieved the goal. You became that person. Your life is different. Now write a letter to your current self. What does future you want to present you? What advice do they give? What do they thank you for? What decisions did you make that changed everything? Write it in detail. Make it real. Make it emotional. Then read it every morning. This isn't woo-woo nonsense. This is psychology. When you read that letter, you're activating your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term thinking, for connecting present actions to future outcomes. You're making future self real, present, impossible to ignore. And when future self feels real, you start voting for them. There's another technique even more powerful. Talk to future self like they're a real person. When you're about to make a decision, ask, what would future me want me to do right now? When you're struggling, ask, what would future me tell me right now? When you want to quit, ask, how would future me feel if I quit? This sounds strange, but do it for 1 week and watch what happens. You'll start making different decisions, better decisions, decisions that compound, because you're no longer fighting alone. Future self is fighting with you. Why your brain fights against you. Let's go deeper. Why does your brain fight against your goals? Why is it so hard to do things you know are good for you? The answer is evolution. And understanding this will change how you approach everything. Your brain has 3 main parts. The first is the brainstem, the reptile brain. This controls basic survival, breathing, heart rate, fight or flight. The second is the limbic system, the mammal brain. This controls emotions, fear, pleasure, social connection. The third is the neocortex, the human brain. This controls logic, planning, long-term thinking. Here's the problem. When these 3 brains disagree, the older brains usually win. And the older brains don't care about your goals. They care about survival, comfort, avoiding danger. Your reptile brain sees your alarm clock at 5 a.m. and thinks, danger, cold, stay in warm bed, survive. Your limbic system sees hard work and thinks pain, discomfort, avoid. Your neocortex says, but we have goals, we want to change our life. And the reptile brain says, don't care, sleep now. This is what you're fighting against. 10,000 years of evolutionary programming. Your brain is not designed for achievement. It's designed for survival. And in the modern world, those 2 things are often opposites. Survival says, conserve energy, avoid risk, stay comfortable. Achievement says, spend energy, take risks, embrace discomfort. No wonder it's hard. But here's the good news. Your neocortex is more powerful than you think. It just needs the right tools. You can't overpower your reptile brain with willpower. You'll lose every time, but you can outsmart it. How? By reducing the perceived threat. Your reptile brain only fights back when it senses danger or discomfort. So make the task feel less dangerous, less uncomfortable. Don't say, I'm going to work out for an hour. Say, I'm going to put on my workout clothes. That's it. Just the clothes. Your reptile brain doesn't fight that. It's not threatening. But once the clothes are on, momentum takes over. You might as well go to the gym. You might as well do a few exercises. This is how you hack your own brain. Small commitments, tiny steps, reducing activation energy. You're not fighting your biology. You're working with it. There's another hack even more powerful. Attach your goal to something your reptile brain already wants. Your reptile brain wants safety, status, social connection, pleasure. So connect your goal to one of those. Want to get fit? Don't focus on health. Focus on status, how you'll look, how people will treat you differently, how you'll feel confident. Want to build a business? Don't focus on money. Focus on freedom, security for your family, never having to worry again. Want to learn a skill? Don't focus on the skill. Focus on who you'll become, the respect you'll earn, the opportunities that will open. When your reptile brain sees the goal as a path to something it wants, it stops fighting. It starts helping. This is alignment, getting all three brains working together. And when that happens, you become unstoppable. Now I need to tell you about your greatest enemy. It's not laziness. It's not lack of talent. It's not circumstances. It's something far more dangerous. Stephen Pressfield calls it the resistance. I call it the invisible force that kills dreams. The resistance is that feeling you get when you're about to do something important. You sit down to work on your goal, and suddenly you need to check your email. You're about to make the important call, and suddenly you need a snack. You're ready to start, and suddenly you're tired, or confused, or not sure where to begin. That's the resistance. It's not real. There's no actual obstacle, but it feels real, and it stops 99% of people cold. The resistance is strongest when the work matters most. Writing a book? Resistance. Starting a business? Massive resistance. Having a difficult conversation? Resistance. Making a change that could transform your life? The most resistance you've ever felt. It's like a compass. The more resistance you feel, the more important the task is. So when you feel that pull to avoid something, to procrastinate, to do anything else, that's your signal. That's the thing you need to do. The resistance has infinite forms. Sometimes it's fear. What if I fail? What if people judge me? Sometimes it's perfectionism. I'm not ready yet. I need to learn more first. Sometimes it's rationalization. Maybe this isn't the right goal anyway. Sometimes it's distraction. I'll just check this one thing first. Sometimes it's physical. Sudden tiredness, hunger, headaches. The form changes. But the source is always the same. Your brain protecting you from perceived threat. The threat of failure. The threat of judgment. The threat of change. Here's what nobody tells you. The resistance never goes away. You don't defeat it once and move on. It shows up every single day, for the rest of your life. The difference between successful people and everyone else is not that successful people don't feel resistance. They feel it just as much, maybe more. The difference is they act anyway. They feel the fear and do it anyway. They feel the pull to procrastinate and start anyway. They feel the doubt and keep going anyway. This is the inner war. And it happens every day. Not once. Not when you're starting. Every single day. How do you beat the resistance? You don't beat it with motivation. Motivation is a feeling. It comes and goes. You don't beat it with willpower. Willpower is limited. It runs out. You beat it with ritual. A ritual is a predetermined action that you do regardless of how you feel. Every day at 6 a.m. I write. Not because I feel like it, because it's what I do at 6 a.m. Every day after work, I go to the gym. Not because I'm motivated, because it's what I do after work. The resistance can't fight ritual, because ritual doesn't require decision. Decision is where the resistance lives. In that gap between thinking and doing, remove the decision. Remove the gap. The resistance has nowhere to hide. Here's the practical application. Identify your most important task for your goal. The one thing that moves the needle. Now attach it to a ritual. Every day at time, I do task for duration. Fill in those blanks. Every day at 6 a.m., I work on my business for 90 minutes. Every day at 7 p.m., I practice my skill for 30 minutes. Every day at 5 a.m., I exercise for 45 minutes. The specific time matters less than the consistency. Same time, same place, Same action, every day. Do this for 30 days and something magical happens. It stops being a decision. It becomes identity. You don't think, should I work out today? You just work out, because that's what you do. The resistance lost, not because you fought it, because you made it irrelevant. Let me tell you about the invisible cage you're living in. It's called your comfort zone, and it's the most dangerous place in the world. Your comfort zone is everything that feels familiar, safe, easy. Your daily routines, your habits, your patterns of thinking. Inside the comfort zone, there's no fear, no uncertainty, no discomfort. Sounds nice, right? It's a trap. Here's the truth. Everything you want is outside your comfort zone. The body you want, outside. The income you want, outside. The relationship you want, outside. The life you want, outside. And as long as you stay inside, nothing changes. You can read all the books, watch all the videos, make all the plans, but if you don't step outside that zone, you stay exactly where you are. Your comfort zone isn't static. It's dynamic. And here's the scary part. If you don't actively expand it, it shrinks. Every time you avoid something uncomfortable, your comfort zone gets smaller. Every time you take the easy path, your tolerance for difficulty decreases. Every time you say no to a challenge, you become less capable of handling challenges. This is how people end up stuck, paralyzed, afraid of everything, not because they faced too many challenges, because they avoided too many challenges. Their comfort zone shrunk until there was nothing left. The 1% understand something critical. Discomfort is not the enemy, it's the path. Growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone, nowhere else. When you're comfortable, you're not growing. When you're uncomfortable, you're expanding. Every time you do something hard, your comfort zone grows. Every time you face a fear, your capacity increases. Every time you push through resistance, you become stronger. Discomfort is not a bug. It's a feature. It's the price of admission to the life you want. So how do you expand your comfort zone? Not by making giant leaps. That's how you get paralyzed. By taking small steps. Consistently. Daily. I call it the edge method. Every day, do one thing at the edge of your comfort zone. Not in the panic zone. That's too far. You'll freeze. At the edge. Just slightly uncomfortable. Maybe it's sending that email you've been avoiding. Maybe it's having that conversation you've been putting off. Maybe it's adding 5 more minutes to your workout. Maybe it's waking up 15 minutes earlier. Small edges. Daily. Over time, those edges compound. What felt terrifying 6 months ago now feels normal, and you've moved on to new edges. This is how transformation happens, not in dramatic moments, in daily edges. Here's a powerful reframe. Stop seeing discomfort as something to avoid. Start seeing it as a signal that you're growing. When you feel uncomfortable, say to yourself, "Good. This means I'm expanding." When you feel fear, say, "Good. This means I'm at my edge." When you feel resistance, say, "Good. This means this matters." Discomfort becomes feedback, not a warning. Feedback. And suddenly, you start seeking it out. Not because you enjoy suffering, because you enjoy growing. Now I'm going to share something that might be the most important concept in this entire masterclass. I call it the pain equation. Understand this, and you'll never struggle with motivation again. Here's the equation. There are 2 types of pain in life: the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. The pain of discipline is temporary. It's the discomfort of doing hard things, waking up early, working when you don't feel like it, saying no to distractions. The pain of regret is permanent. It's the weight of knowing you didn't try, the heaviness of wondering what could have been, the slow death of watching your potential waste away. Everyone pays one of these prices. There are no exceptions. You either pay the price of discipline now, or you pay the price of regret later. Choose your pain. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. Think about it. The pain of waking up early? Gone in 10 minutes. The pain of never achieving your potential? follows you to the grave, the pain of a hard workout, gone in an hour, the pain of watching your body deteriorate, lasts decades, the pain of building a business, a few years of struggle, the pain of financial insecurity, a lifetime of stress. The math is obvious when you see it clearly. But here's why most people choose regret. The pain of discipline is immediate. You feel it now. The pain of regret is delayed. You feel it later. And your brain is wired to avoid immediate pain at all costs, even if it means accepting massive future pain. This is called temporal discounting. Your brain values now more than later, so it makes terrible trades. Avoid 10 minutes of discomfort now. Accept 10 years of regret later. Logically insane. Biologically normal. The 1% override this programming. They've trained themselves to feel future pain now. When they think about skipping the workout, they don't feel relief. They feel the regret of an unhealthy body at 60. When they think about procrastinating on their goal, they don't feel comfort. They feel the weight of dreams never realized. They've connected present actions to future consequences, and that connection changes everything. Here's how you do this. When you're about to skip something important, don't think about now. Think about 5 years from now. If you keep making this choice, where will you be in 5 years? If you skip today, you'll skip tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. 5 years of skipping. Where does that lead? Now flip it. If you do the hard thing today, you'll do it tomorrow, and the next day. 5 years of showing up. Where does that lead? Make the choice from that place, not from present comfort, from future consequence. This is how you access discipline when motivation fails. There's a visualization that makes this concrete. Imagine 2 versions of yourself 5 years from now. The first version took the easy path, avoided discomfort, stayed in the comfort zone, made excuses. Where are they? What does their life look like? How do they feel? See it clearly. Feel the disappointment, the regret, the heaviness. Now imagine the second version, the one who did the hard things, pushed through resistance, showed up daily, paid the price of discipline. Where are they? What does their life look like? How do they feel? See it clearly. Feel the pride, the freedom, the power. Now ask yourself, which version do I choose? And then make your next decision from that place. I want to tell you something important. Mental toughness is not a gift. It's not something you're born with. It's a skill, a muscle, something you build. And I'm going to show you exactly how to build it. Mental toughness is the ability to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. Feeling tired? Do it anyway. Feeling scared? Do it anyway. Feeling unmotivated? Do it anyway. The mentally tough person doesn't feel less fear, less tiredness, less doubt. They just have a weaker connection between feeling and action. The feeling happens. They acknowledge it, then they act anyway. That gap between feeling and action, that's mental toughness, and it can be trained. Here's the training protocol. Every day, do something you don't feel like doing. Not something massive, something small. Take a cold shower, even for 30 seconds. Do 10 push-ups first thing in the morning. Make your bed immediately after waking up. Have a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Say no to something you usually say yes to. These seem trivial. They're not. Every time you act, despite not feeling like it, you're building the muscle. You're creating evidence that feelings don't control you. You're proving to yourself that you can override your impulses, and that evidence compounds. After 30 days of cold showers, skipping a workout seems less impossible. After 60 days of morning push-ups, starting work when you're tired seems manageable. After 90 days of intentional discomfort, you've rewired your relationship with hard things. Mental toughness isn't built in big moments. It's built in small daily practices that no one sees. There's another technique even more powerful. I call it the 10-minute rule. When you don't feel like doing something, commit to just 10 minutes. Not the full workout, just 10 minutes. Not the full writing session, just 10 minutes. Not the full task, just 10 minutes. Anyone can do anything for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you have permission to stop. But here's what happens. 90% of the time, you keep going. Because starting is the hard part. Continuing is easy. The resistance fights starting. Once you're moving, it loses power. 10 minutes breaks the initial resistance. Momentum does the rest. This is how you beat your brain. Not with heroic willpower, with strategic psychology. Here's the final piece. Track your wins. Every night before bed, write down 3 wins from the day. 3 times you did something despite not feeling like it. 3 times you chose future self over present self. 3 times you expanded your comfort zone. They don't have to be big. Small wins count. I woke up when my alarm went off. I worked for 30 minutes before checking my phone. I had the difficult conversation. Why does this work? Because your brain needs evidence that you're becoming mentally tough. Without evidence, it defaults to old identity. I'm lazy. I'm undisciplined. I never follow through. But with evidence, daily evidence, your identity shifts. I'm someone who does hard things. I'm someone who shows up regardless of feelings. I'm someone who keeps their commitments to themselves. And once your identity shifts, behavior follows automatically. You don't have to fight yourself anymore. You just act in accordance with who you are. The daily battle plan. Before we move on, I want to give you a concrete system for winning the inner war. Not theory, a daily practice. Do this every day for the next 90 days, and you'll transform who you are at the core. Step 1. Morning mindset reset. Before you check your phone, before you do anything, 3 minutes. Ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1. Who do I need to be today? Not what do I need to do. Who do I need to be? Connect with your future self. Remember who you're becoming. Question 2. What's the one thing that matters most today? Not the 20 things. The one thing. The thing that moves you toward your goal. Question 3. What will try to stop me today? How will I handle it? Anticipate the resistance. Name the specific form it might take. I'll feel tired at 3 p.m. I'll do the important work before noon. I'll want to skip the workout. I'll lay out my clothes tonight. Anticipation is half the battle. Step 2. Win the first hour. The first hour of your day sets the tone for everything. Win the first hour, and you'll probably win the day. Lose the first hour, and you're playing catch-up. What does winning look like? It means doing something that moves you toward your goal before anything else. Before email, before social media, before the news, before other people's demands. 1 hour, protected, non-negotiable. This is your most valuable time. Guard it with your life. Step 3. The midday check-in. Somewhere around noon, pause for 60 seconds. Ask yourself, am I winning or losing right now? Not judgment, just awareness. If you're winning, acknowledge it. Keep going. If you're losing, reset. What's the next right action? Don't let half a bad day become a full bad day. Course correct early. Step 4. The evening review. At the end of the day, 3 minutes. Review your 3 wins. Write them down. Ask yourself, if I repeated today for the next year, where would I end up? If the answer is somewhere good, you had a good day. If the answer is somewhere bad, tomorrow needs to be different. This question puts each day in perspective, because your life is just a collection of days, and each day is a brick. What are you building, 1 brick at a time? Step 5. Protect your sleep. This is non-negotiable. Sleep is when your brain consolidates learning, when your body recovers, when your willpower recharges. 7 to 8 hours, minimum. If you're sleeping 5 hours and wondering why you have no willpower, there's your answer. The inner war is won and lost in how well you rest. That's the daily battle plan. Morning mindset reset. Win the first hour, midday check-in, evening review. Protect sleep. 5 steps, 10 minutes of intentional practice spread throughout the day. But the impact is transformational because you're not leaving your mental state to chance anymore. You're engineering it. The truth about the inner war. Let me leave you with the truth about this war. You will never win it permanently. There is no point where the resistance disappears, where your present self stops fighting, where discipline becomes effortless. That's a fantasy. The inner war continues, every day, for the rest of your life. But here's what changes. You get better at fighting. The battles that used to take all your energy become routine. The resistance that used to paralyze you becomes background noise. The voice that used to control you becomes just another voice. You still hear it. You just don't obey it. And something else happens. You start to enjoy the fight. Not in a masochistic way, in a meaningful way. Because you realize that the fight is the point. The person you become through the struggle is more valuable than the goal you achieve, the discipline you build, the mental toughness you develop, the self-respect you earn. That's the real prize. The goal is just the excuse. Every great achiever knows this. They don't avoid the inner war. They embrace it. They wake up knowing today will be hard, and they love that. Because hard days are where growth lives. Because struggle is where character is forged. Because the battle is what makes victory meaningful. So here's my challenge to you. Stop running from the war. Stop looking for hacks to avoid the discomfort. Stop waiting for it to get easy. It won't, and that's okay. Because you don't need it to be easy. You just need to show up. Fight the battle. Vote for future self. One day at a time. One decision at a time. One small win at a time. That's how you win the inner war. Not with one heroic moment, with 10,000 small choices that nobody sees but you. You now understand what you're really up against. Not external obstacles, internal ones. Present self versus future self. The evolutionary brain, the resistance, the comfort zone, the pain equation. And you have tools. The future self letter, the ritual, the edge method, the 10-minute rule, the daily battle plan. You're not going into this fight unarmed. But tools without systems are useless. So in the next act, we're going to take everything you've learned about mindset and combine it with everything you've learned about goals. We're going to build the actual architecture, the execution engine, the failure-proof system. This is where inner work meets outer action. This is where transformation becomes inevitable. Let's go. Act 3. The architecture. Reverse engineering success. This is where we stop talking about goals and start building the machine that achieves them. And we're going to start with the most overlooked skill in goal achievement. Reverse engineering. The forensic method. Here's what most people do when they want to achieve something. They look for inspiration. They read success stories. They watch motivational interviews. And they hear things like, "I just believed in myself. I never gave up. I followed my passion." And they think, "Okay, I'll do that too." But here's the problem. That's not how they actually did it. That's the story they tell after they succeeded. It's been edited, polished, sanitized for public consumption. The real story? It's messy. It's full of failed experiments, ugly iterations, uncomfortable truths. But nobody talks about that part. So if you want to actually achieve what they achieved, you can't study their motivational speeches. You have to study their systems. I call this the forensic method. You treat their success like a crime scene, and you're the detective. You're not asking, what inspired them? You're asking, what did they actually do? In what order? With what resources? What failed before this worked? Let me give you an example. Everybody knows Elon Musk is successful. Multiple billion-dollar companies. The motivational version, he's a genius. He works 100 hours a week. He thinks big. Okay, not helpful. The forensic version? He sold Zip2 for $22 million. Immediately started X.com with 10 million of it. He merged X.com with Confinity to create PayPal. Fought for control, nearly got ousted. Sold PayPal for $1.5 billion. His cut, $165 million. Invested $100 million into SpaceX, $70 million into Tesla, $10 million into Solar City. Nearly went bankrupt in 2008. Both companies almost died. He put his last dollar into keeping them alive. See the difference? That's not a motivational story. That's a system. High-risk bets, strategic timing, willingness to go all in, diversification across related industries. That's what you study. So here's your assignment. Find someone who's achieved your goal, not someone famous, someone real, and reverse engineer their path. What was their first step? Not their 10th step, their first. What resources did they start with? Less than you think. What did they try that failed? More than they admit. Study the system, not the story. Now let's talk about the concept that changes everything, the proof chain. Here's the insight. You can't just jump to your big goal. Your brain doesn't believe you yet. You need to build evidence, proof that you're the type of person who can do this. Each proof point unlocks the next level. Think of it like a video game. You don't fight the final boss on level 1. You'd get destroyed. You fight smaller enemies, build experience, level up, unlock new abilities. Then you're ready for the boss. Goals work the same way. Let me show you exactly how to build your proof chain. Let's say your goal is to build $1 million business. That's the summit. But you're at base camp. Here's your proof chain. Proof 1. Can you make $1? Not from a job, from selling something you created. This proves there is demand for something you can offer. How do you get this proof? Sell something small, a service, a digital product, consulting, anything. Just prove you can exchange value for money. Timeline. 1 week. Most people skip this. They spend 6 months building a product nobody wants. Don't. Get proof first. Proof 2. Can you make $100? This proves you can refine your offer and do it again. How? Do the thing that made you $1. Do it better, or do it 10 times. Learn from the first sale. What worked? What didn't? Adjust. Repeat. Timeline. 2 weeks. Proof 3. Can you make $1,000? This proves you have a repeatable system. This is where most people get stuck. Because now you need process, not just hustle. You need to document. How did I acquire customers? How did I deliver value? How did I get paid? Turn chaos into system. Timeline. 1 to 2 months. Proof 4. Can you make $10,000? This proves your system can scale. Now you're not doing everything yourself. You're building infrastructure. Maybe you hire help. Maybe you create templates. Maybe you automate parts of delivery. This is where businesses either scale or stay stuck. Timeline. 3 to 6 months. Proof 5. Can you make $100,000? This proves you understand market dynamics at scale. You're thinking about customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, profit margins, team building. You're no longer a freelancer, you're a business owner. Timeline. 1 to 2 years. And finally, the $1 million. But notice what happened. By the time you reach this point, it's not a miracle. It's inevitable. Because you've proven at every level that you can do the next thing. Your brain believes you. Your skills support you. Your systems enable you. This is the proof chain. Now you do this for your goal. Whatever it is. Break it into 5 proof points. Each proof point should feel like a stretch, but not impossible. If your goal is to run a marathon, proof 1. Can you run 1 mile without stopping? Proof 2. Can you run a 5K? Proof 3. Can you run a 10K? Proof 4. Can you run a half marathon? Proof 5. Can you run a full marathon? See how that works? Each level builds the capacity for the next. Write down your 5 proof points right now. This is your roadmap. Now here's where we take this deeper. Most people track milestones, numbers, external markers. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to save $5,000. I want to gain 1,000 followers. These aren't bad, but they're incomplete because they measure what changed, not who changed. The 1% track transformation markers. These are identity shifts, internal changes that make the external results inevitable. Let me show you the difference. Fitness goal. Milestone. I lost 10 pounds. Transformation. Marker. I became someone who craves movement. See it? The milestone can be lost. You gain the weight back. The transformation is permanent. You're a different person now. Business goal. Milestone. I made my first $10,000. Transformation. Marker. I became someone who creates value and captures it. One is an event. The other is an evolution. Learning goal. Milestone. I read 12 books this year. Transformation. Marker. I became someone who prioritizes learning. Which one is more powerful? Every goal takes you through 5 stages of identity, and you need to know which stage you're in. Stage 1. Beginner. You're learning the basics. Everything is new. Your job, show up consistently. Build the habit. Don't worry about results yet. Worry about repetition. Timeline. Weeks 1 through 8. Stage 2. Practitioner. You've built the habit. Now you're refining technique. Your job. Study what works. Eliminate what doesn't. Results start appearing. Small, but real. Timeline. Months 3 through 6. Stage 3. Professional. You're competent. People notice your skill. Your job. Increase volume. Scale what's working. This is where most people plateau. Don't. Timeline. Months 6 through 12. Stage 4. Expert. You've mastered the fundamentals. Now you're innovating. Your job. Find your unique edge. Do it your way. Timeline. Years 1 through 3. Stage 5. Master. It's intuitive now. You don't think. You execute. Your job. Teach others. Refine the art. Timeline. Year 3 and beyond. Here's why this matters. If you're a beginner and you're frustrated you're not getting expert results, you're in the wrong stage. If you're a practitioner and you're trying to innovate before you've mastered fundamentals, you'll fail. Know your stage. Respect the process. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens in stages, and each stage builds the foundation for the next. All right. You've reverse-engineered success. You've built your proof chain. You understand transformation markers. Now let's build the daily system that makes all of this run on autopilot. This is where the magic happens. The execution engine. This is the most practical section of the entire masterclass, because knowing what to do means nothing if you don't actually do it. So we're going to build your execution engine, a system so tight that it works even when you don't feel like it. The 3-number dashboard. First, you need to know if you're winning. But here's the problem. Most people track too much. 20 metrics, 50 data points, and they get paralyzed. The 1% track 3 numbers. That's it. I call it the 3-number dashboard. Input, throughput, output, input, the actions you control. This is what you do every day. For a fitness goal, how many workouts this week? For a business goal, how many sales calls did I make? For a learning goal, how many hours did I study? Input is completely within your control. You can't control results, but you can control effort. Throughput, the efficiency of your system. This is how well you're doing what you do. For fitness, how much weight am I lifting? For business, what's my conversion rate on sales calls? For learning, how much am I retaining? Throughput tells you if your system is improving. Output, the results you're getting. For fitness, body fat percentage. For business, monthly revenue. For learning, projects completed with new skills. Output is the scoreboard. Here's why 3 numbers work. If output is going up, but input is going down, you're getting more efficient. Good. If input is high, but output is flat, your throughput needs work. Adjust your system. If all 3 are moving up, you're winning. 3 numbers. 1 dashboard. Complete clarity. Define your 3 numbers right now. Input. What action will you track daily or weekly? Throughput. What metric shows your system is improving? Output. What result are you trying to achieve? Write them down. These are your North Star metrics. Now let's talk about the most underrated factor in goal achievement. Your environment. Here's the truth. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. If your environment supports your goal, success is easy. If your environment fights your goal, success is torture. So we're going to redesign your environment using 3 principles. Principle 1, the forcing function. Make not doing the right thing harder than doing it. Example. You want to wake up early. Put your alarm across the room. Now you have to get out of bed to turn it off. That's a forcing function. Another example. You want to stop eating junk food. Don't keep it in your house. Now eating junk requires a trip to the store. Friction works both ways. Use it to make bad habits hard and good habits easy. Principle 2. The friction audit. List every obstacle between you and action. Then remove them. You want to work out in the morning? Friction points. Finding workout clothes, deciding what to do at the gym, feeling low energy. Solutions. Sleep in your workout clothes. Plan your workout the night before. Preset your coffee maker. Now when the alarm goes off, there's no decision to make. You're dressed. You know the plan. You have energy. The workout happens automatically. Do this for your goal. Find the friction. Eliminate it. Principle 3. The activation energy hack. This comes from chemistry. Every reaction needs initial energy to start. Goals are the same. Starting is hard. Continuing is easy. So reduce the activation energy to near zero. Example. You want to write every day. Don't start with a blank page. That's high activation energy. Instead, the night before, write your first sentence. Now, when you sit down the next day, you're not starting. You're continuing. Activation energy. Almost zero. Another example. You want to learn to code. Don't say, I'll figure out what to learn tomorrow. Open your laptop right now. Pull up a tutorial. Watch the first 2 minutes. Tomorrow, you press play and continue. See the difference? Reduce the friction between current state and action. Make starting so easy, you'd feel stupid not doing it. The CEO meeting. Here's a practice that will change everything. Every Sunday, schedule a 30-minute meeting with yourself. I call it the CEO meeting because you're the CEO of your life, and CEOs don't just execute, they strategize. Here's the agenda. 3 questions. Question 1. What worked this week? Be specific. Don't say, I did good. Say, I worked out 4 times because I scheduled them on Sunday and treated them like meetings. Identify the system that produced the result. Then ask, how can I double down on this? Question 2. What didn't work? Again, be specific. I skipped my morning routine 3 days because I stayed up too late watching Netflix. Don't judge yourself. Just observe. Then ask, what needs to change? What's the experiment for next week? Maybe it's, put phone in another room after 9 p.m. Question 3. What's the next experiment? Notice I didn't say commitment. I said experiment. Because you're not locking yourself into a permanent change. You're testing a hypothesis. This week, I'll try working out at 6 a.m. instead of 6 p.m. Let's see if that improves consistency. Low pressure, high data. At the end of the week, you review. Did it work? Keep it? Didn't work? Try something else. This practice alone will put you ahead of 99% of people. Because you're not just doing, you're learning. You're treating your goal like a scientist treats an experiment. Hypothesis, test, data, iterate. That's how the 1% operate. Energy management over time management. Last piece of the execution engine. Stop managing your time. Start managing your energy. Here's the mistake everyone makes. They look at their calendar and say, I have an hour free at 2 p.m. I'll do my most important work then. But at 2 p.m., they're in a post-lunch energy crash. So they stare at the screen, make no progress, feel terrible about themselves. The problem wasn't time, it was energy. You need to understand your personal energy map. When are you at peak energy? Morning, afternoon, night? When do you crash? When are you most creative, most analytical, most social? This is different for everyone. I'm a morning person. My brain is sharpest from 6 to 10 a.m., so I do deep work then. Writing, strategy, problem solving. Afternoon? I'm okay. I'll do meetings, administrative tasks. Evening? I'm cooked. I'll respond to emails. Light stuff. Here's what you're going to do. For 1 week, track your energy levels every 2 hours. On a scale of 1 to 10, 8 a.m., energy level 8, 10 a.m., energy level 9, noon, energy level 6, 2 p.m., energy level 4. You get the idea. At the end of the week, you'll see your pattern, then you schedule accordingly. High energy windows, hard tasks, deep work, creative work, medium energy windows, meetings, communication, learning, low energy windows, administrative, routine, low stakes. This one change will probably double your productivity because you're no longer fighting your biology. You're working with it. Most people do the opposite. They schedule their most important work whenever they have time, which is usually when they have low energy. So they struggle, procrastinate, feel terrible. Then they blame themselves for lacking discipline. It's not discipline, it's poor energy management. Fix this, and everything gets easier. Okay, you've built your execution engine, 3-number dashboard, environment design, CEO meeting, energy management. This system will carry you far. But here's what nobody talks about. Systems fail. Not because they're bad systems, but because life happens. Motivation crashes, progress stalls, obstacles appear. So in the next section, we're going to failure-proof your system. We're going to anticipate every predictable failure point and build defenses against them. This is how you make your goal bulletproof. If you want to achieve your goal, you need to assume one thing. You're going to face obstacles. Not maybe. Definitely. The question isn't, will I face challenges? The question is, am I prepared for them? So we're going to run a pre-mortem, and then build defenses against the 5 most common derailers. A pre-mortem is the opposite of a post-mortem. Instead of analyzing why something failed after it fails, you analyze why it will fail before it happens. Here's how it works. Imagine it's 6 months from now. Your goal failed. Completely. You didn't achieve it. Now write the story. I failed because Zakshas first happened, then happened, and I couldn't recover. Be specific. Be honest. What would actually derail you? Now that you've written that story, you prevent it. You know the threats. So you build defenses. This is strategic paranoia, and it's how the 1% stay on track. The 5 derailers. Let me save you some time. I've studied hundreds of failed goals, and the same 5 derailers show up again and again. Let's go through each one and how to beat them. Derailer number 1, the motivation crash. This happens around week 3 or 4. The initial excitement fades. Reality sets in. It's harder than you thought, and you think, maybe I'm not cut out for this. How to prevent it? You already did it. Environment design. Your system doesn't depend on motivation. It depends on architecture. When motivation crashes, your environment carries you. Backup plan. Commit to the absolute minimum. Can't do a full workout? Do 10 minutes? Can't write 1,000 words? Write 1 sentence? Never go to 0, because 0 breaks the chain. Derailer number 2, the plateau. Months 3 through 6. Progress stalls. You're doing everything right, but the results aren't coming. This is the messy middle, and it's where most people quit. How to prevent it? Understand the plateau is part of the process. There's a concept in nature called the Chinese bamboo tree. You plant the seed, water it every day. For 4 years, nothing happens. Then in year 5, it shoots up 90 feet in 6 weeks. Was anything happening in years 1 through 4? Yes. The roots were growing underground. Your goal is the same. The plateau isn't proof you're failing. It's proof you're building foundation. Trust the process. Keep watering the bamboo. Derailer number 3, the comparison trap. You see someone else achieving your goal faster, and you think, I'm behind. I'm not good enough. What's the point? How to prevent it? Compare to your past self. No one else. Ask, am I better than I was last month? Last week? Yesterday? If yes, you're winning. Everyone's path is different. Different starting points, different resources, different obstacles. The only person you're competing with is who you were yesterday. Practical tip: limit social media during goal pursuit. It's a highlight reel designed to make you feel inadequate. Don't let someone else's chapter 20 make you quit your chapter 2. Derailer number 4, the burnout spiral. You go too hard, too fast, trying to make up for lost time, trying to prove yourself, and you burn out. How to prevent it? The 85% rule. Never give 100%, ever. Athletes who train at 85% intensity outperform those who train at 100%. Why? Because recovery is when growth happens. You need margin, buffer, rest. So build rest into your system. 1 rest day per week. Non-negotiable. Work hard, but also work sustainable, because a goal that destroys you isn't worth achieving. Derailer number 5, the sunk cost trap. You've invested 6 months into this goal, but deep down, you know it's not working, and you think, I can't quit now. I've come too far. So you keep going, throwing good time after bad. How to prevent it? Build decision points into your timeline. Every 3 months ask, is this still the right goal? Not, have I invested a lot? But is this still aligned with where I want to go? If no, it's okay to pivot. Quitting a wrong goal isn't failure. It's wisdom. The 1% don't stick with bad plans just because they started them. They're ruthless about cutting losses and reallocating resources. The pivot versus persist matrix. Here's a simple framework. 2 questions. 1. Am I making progress? 2. Is this goal still aligned with my values and vision? If yes, progress. Yes, aligned. Keep going. If no progress, yes, aligned. Adjust strategy, keep goal. If yes, progress, no, aligned. Pivot to new goal. If no progress, no, aligned. Quit immediately. Simple, clear, no emotion, just data. All right. Your system is now failure-proofed. You know the 5 derailers. You've built defenses. You have a decision framework for when to pivot versus persist. You're not just hoping for success. You're engineering it. But we're not done. Because execution without leverage is just hard work. In Act 3, we're going to teach you how to create unfair advantages, how to achieve more with less, how to make your effort asymmetric. This is where good becomes exceptional. Let's go. Act 4. The Asymmetry. You've done the inner work. You understand the war inside your head. You know how to make future self win. You've built mental toughness. You've built the architecture. You have systems, environment design, your execution engine, failure proofing. But here's what separates good from exceptional. It's not just working hard, it's working asymmetrically. The 1% don't achieve more because they work longer hours. They achieve more because they've discovered leverage. They've learned to get 10 times the results from the same amount of effort. And in the next 35 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how they do it. This is the asymmetry, the 80-20 revelation. Let me start with a principle that will change how you approach everything. It's called the Pareto principle, but most people misunderstand it. They think it means 80% of results come from 20% of effort. That's partially true, but incomplete. Here's the full truth. 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions, which means 80% of what you do barely matters. Think about that for a second. If you work 10 hours a day, only 2 of those hours are actually moving the needle. The other 8? Activity, not progress. This shows up everywhere. 80% of your income probably comes from 20% of your clients. 80% of your stress comes from 20% of your problems. 80% of your happiness comes from 20% of your relationships. 80% of your progress toward your goal comes from 20% of your activities. The question is, do you know which 20%? Most people don't. So they spread their effort evenly across everything. They work hard, but most of that work is wasted. The 1% are ruthless about this. They identify the critical 20%, and they go all in on it. They ignore, delegate, or eliminate the 80% that doesn't matter. This is how they seem to accomplish 10 times more while working the same hours. They're not superhuman. They're just focused on the right 20%. Let me give you a concrete example. Two people both want to grow their business. Person A works 12 hours a day. They answer every email, take every meeting, handle every customer service issue, post on social media daily, tweak their website constantly, research competitors. They're busy, exhausted, stressed. At the end of the year, revenue grew 10%. Person B works 6 hours a day. They identified the 20%, acquiring new customers and delivering exceptional value to existing ones. They ignore most emails, decline most meetings, outsource customer service, post on social media once a week, never touch the website, don't research competitors. They spend 4 hours a day on customer acquisition, 2 hours on customer delivery. At the end of the year, revenue grew 300%. Same market, different focus. Person A spread effort across everything. 80% was wasted. Person B concentrated effort on the 20%. Everything else was noise. That's asymmetry. So how do you find your 20%? Here's the exercise that will change your life. For 1 week, track everything you do related to your goal. Every single activity. How much time you spend on it. At the end of the week, ask yourself one question for each activity. If I could only do one of these activities and had to eliminate everything else, which one would I keep? That's your number one, your highest leverage activity. Now ask again, if I could do 2 activities, which would I add? That's your number 2. Keep going until you have your top 3 to 5 activities. Those are your 20%. Everything else is the 80%. Now here's the hard part. You have to ruthlessly eliminate or minimize the 80%, not reduce it. Eliminate it. Delegate it. Automate it. Stop doing it entirely. This feels wrong. Your brain will resist. But what if I need that someday? But that's important too. But I should be well-rounded. No, you shouldn't. Well-rounded people are mediocre at everything. Exceptional people are exceptional at the few things that matter and terrible at everything else. And they're okay with that. Here's the litmus test. If you're not willing to eliminate the 80%, you don't actually want the goal badly enough. Because the 80% is comfortable, familiar, easy. The 20% is usually uncomfortable, uncertain, hard. But it's also where all the results live. So make the choice. Do you want to feel busy, or do you want to achieve the goal? Because you can't have both. The leverage matrix. Now let's go deeper. Not all actions in your 20% are equal. Some have more leverage than others. I'm going to show you a framework that helps you identify maximum leverage activities. I call it the leverage matrix. Every activity falls into one of 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, high impact, low effort. These are your golden activities. Maximum leverage. They move the needle significantly and don't require massive time or energy. Example. If you're building a business, sending a personalized email to your top 10 customers asking for referrals. 5 minutes of work, potentially huge return. Example. If you're getting fit, walking 10,000 steps a day. Doesn't feel like exercise. Burns significant calories. These are your low-hanging fruit. Do these first. Do these most. Quadrant 2. High impact, high effort. These are your big bets. They matter enormously, but require significant investment. Example. If you're building a business, creating a comprehensive online course. Weeks of work, but could generate passive income for years. Example. If you're learning a skill, committing to a 6-month intensive program. Hard. Time-consuming, but transforms your capability. These activities are worth doing, but schedule them strategically. When you have energy, when you have time. Don't do these when you're tired or distracted. You'll waste the effort. Quadrant 3. Low impact, low effort. These are your time wasters disguised as productivity. They feel productive because they're easy, but they don't move the needle. Example. Reorganizing your workspace for the 3rd time this month. Example. Reading another book on goal setting instead of actually working on your goal. Example. tweaking your website font for 2 hours. These are dangerous because they give you the illusion of progress. You feel busy. You feel like you're doing something, but you're just avoiding the real work. Eliminate these ruthlessly. Quadrant 4. Low impact, high effort. These are the traps. Hard work that goes nowhere. Example: manually doing something that should be automated. Example: attending meetings that accomplish nothing. Example: perfecting something that doesn't need to be perfect. If you find yourself here, stop immediately. This is where burnout lives. Maximum effort, minimum return. These activities make you feel like you're working hard, and you are. But hard work on the wrong thing is just wasted energy. Here's how you use the matrix. List every activity related to your goal. Place each one in a quadrant. Then follow this rule. Quadrant 1. Do more of this. This is your gold. Quadrant 2. Schedule this strategically. Do it when you're at peak energy. Quadrant 3. Eliminate this immediately. It's fake work. Quadrant 4. Stop this today. It's a trap. Do this exercise once a month. Because activities shift. What was high leverage 6 months ago might be low leverage now. Constantly reassess. Constantly optimize. That's how you maintain asymmetry. The keystone habit. Now I'm going to teach you about one of the most powerful concepts in behavior change. The keystone habit. This is a single habit that triggers a cascade of other positive behaviors. It's the domino that knocks down all the other dominoes. Find your keystone habit, and everything gets easier. Let me give you an example. Research shows that people who start exercising regularly also start eating better. Without trying. Without a separate goal. Why? Because exercise is a keystone habit. When you work out in the morning, you think, I just worked hard. I'm not going to ruin it with a garbage breakfast. So you eat protein and vegetables instead of donuts. Then you have more energy. So you're more productive at work. Then you feel accomplished. So you're in a better mood. Then you sleep better that night because you expended energy. One habit. Multiple cascading effects. That's a keystone habit. Here are some common keystone habits. Making your bed first thing in the morning. Why it works. It starts your day with a win. Sets the tone. Creates momentum. Getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Why it works. Everything is easier with energy. Willpower, focus, mood, decision-making all improve. A morning routine. Why it works. Removes decision fatigue. Wins the first hour. Sets the trajectory for the entire day. Daily movement or exercise. Why it works. Increases energy, improves mood, builds discipline, creates health awareness. Tracking one key metric daily. Why it works. Creates awareness. What gets measured gets managed. Here's how to identify your keystone habit. Ask yourself, what one behavior, if I did it consistently, would make everything else easier or unnecessary? Not what should be your keystone habit. What actually would be. For some people, it's sleep. Fix sleep and everything clicks. For others, it's morning routine. Win the morning and the day follows. For others, it's weekly planning. Clarity once a week prevents chaos every day. There's no universal answer. It's personal. But when you find it, everything changes. Because instead of trying to change 10 things at once, you change one thing. And that one thing naturally improves the other 9. This is leverage. This is asymmetry. Minimum input. Maximum output. Here's the implementation strategy. Choose your keystone habit. One only. Commit to it for 30 days. Non-negotiable. Track it daily. Did you do it? Yes or no? At the end of 30 days, evaluate. What else changed as a result? Are you sleeping better? Eating better? More productive? Less stressed? If yes, you found your keystone. Lock it in permanently. If no, try a different one. But whatever you do, don't try to install 5 keystone habits at once. That defeats the entire purpose. One keystone. Everything else follows. Second-order goals. Now let's talk about something almost nobody understands. Second-order goals. Most people chase first-order goals. I want to make more money. I want to lose weight. I want to learn a new skill. These are fine, but they're hard because they require direct effort, constant willpower, sustained focus. The 1% chase second-order goals. These are goals that make other goals easier or unnecessary. They're upstream. They're foundational. Fix a second-order goal and multiple first-order goals solve themselves. Let me show you what I mean. First-order goal. I want to make more money. You could work harder, take more clients, hustle more. That's the direct approach. It works, but it's exhausting. Second-order goal. I want to build a skill that makes me more valuable. Now you're not just working more. You're becoming worth more. You can charge higher rates, attract better clients, work less and earn more. Same financial outcome, different path. Second-order path is easier long-term. Another example. First-order goal. I want to get fit, make money, learn new skills, and be happy. That's 4 separate goals. You're splitting focus 4 ways. Good luck. Second-order goal. I want to fix my sleep. Sounds unrelated, right? But watch what happens. With better sleep, you have more energy. So working out becomes easier. Fitness improves. With better sleep, your brain functions better. So you're more productive at work. Income increases. With better sleep, you can focus longer. So learning becomes easier. Skills develop faster. With better sleep, your mood stabilizes. Happiness improves. 1 goal, 4 outcomes. That's a second-order goal. Here are some powerful second-order goals. Mastering energy management. Why it's second order? Everything is easier with energy. Work, relationships, health, learning, building systems thinking. Why it's second order? Learn to think in systems once, solve problems systematically forever. Developing emotional regulation. Why it's second order? Control your emotional state, and you make better decisions in every area of life. Creating financial margin. Why it's second order? Having 3 months of expenses saved removes stress, enables risk-taking, improves decision quality. Building a network of high performers. Why it's second order? Surround yourself with the right people and opportunities come to you. Here's how to identify second-order goals. Ask yourself, what goal, if achieved, would make multiple other goals easier or unnecessary? Not, what sounds impressive? What's actually foundational? For most people, the answer is one of these: sleep, energy management, financial stability, emotional regulation, systems thinking. These aren't sexy, nobody's posting about them on Instagram, but they're force multipliers. Fix one of these, and you unlock 10 times more capacity for everything else. Here's the strategic question. Are you spending 80% of your energy on first-order goals and 20% on second-order goals? Flip it. Spend 80% of your energy on second-order goals. The first-order goals will solve themselves. This is thinking like the 1%. Most people are downstream, fighting symptoms. The 1% are upstream, fixing root causes. The compound effect. Let me show you the most powerful force in achievement. It's not talent, not luck, not connections. It's compounding. Small actions, repeated consistently, create exponential results over time. This is the secret weapon of every high achiever, and most people completely misunderstand it. Here's the math. If you improve by 1% every day for a year, you don't improve by 365%. You improve by 3,700%. Because the improvements compound. Day 1, you're at 100. Day 2, you're at 101. Day 30, you're at 135. Day 90, you're at 244. Day 365, you're at 3,778. That's the power of compounding. But here's the problem. It's invisible at first. For the first month, you barely notice progress. You're working hard, showing up daily, and you're only 35% better than when you started. It doesn't feel worth it. So most people quit. They think, this isn't working. I'm not seeing results. But they quit right before the exponential curve kicks in. Because compounding is backloaded. The first 90 days feel slow. The next 90 days feel better. After 6 months, things start accelerating. After a year, you're unrecognizable. But you have to survive the first 90 days when progress is invisible. Here's the other side of compounding. It works in reverse, too. If you decline by 1% every day, you don't decline by 365%. You decline to nearly zero. Day 1, you're at 100. Day 30, you're at 74. Day 90, you're at 40. Day 365, you're at 3. This is how people end up completely stuck, not because of one big failure, because of 1,000 tiny declines. I'll skip today. Just once. 1% decline. I'll start tomorrow. 1% decline. It doesn't matter. 1% decline. A year later, they're 3% of where they started. And they don't understand how it happened. It happened 1% at a time. So here's the strategic imperative. Your job is not to make massive progress every day. Your job is to make 1% progress every day. Can you do 1% better than yesterday? Can you write 1% more? Lift 1% more? Learn 1% more? 1% is nothing. It's barely noticeable. But over a year, it's everything. And the beautiful part? 1% is achievable. Always. Even on bad days. Even when you're tired. Even when life is chaos. You can still do 1%. So aim for that. Not 10%. Not 50%. 1%. But do it every single day, and let compounding do the rest. Here's the practical application. Identify your one metric, the one number that represents progress toward your goal. For fitness, weight lifted, miles run, body fat percentage. For business, revenue, customers, profit margin. For learning, pages read, hours practiced, projects completed. Pick one. Now track it weekly. Ask yourself every Sunday, did I improve by at least 1% this week compared to last week? If yes, you're on the exponential curve. If no, adjust something. But never go backwards. Never decline. Because 1% forward compounded over a year is transformation. 1% backward compounded over a year is devastation. Choose your direction, then protect it relentlessly. The speed versus sustainability paradox. Now I need to tell you about a trap that catches almost everyone, especially ambitious people, especially people who want results fast. It's the speed versus sustainability paradox. And understanding this might save you years of pain. Here's what most people think. If I want to achieve my goal faster, I should work harder, push harder, give 100% all the time. Logical, right? Wrong. Because 100% effort is not sustainable. You can sprint for a day, maybe a week, maybe even a month if you're tough. But you can't sprint for a year. Eventually, you break. Burnout, injury, mental exhaustion, complete collapse. And then you're not moving forward at all. You're recovering. So the person who sprinted for 3 months and burned out for 3 months made 6 months of progress in a year. Meanwhile, the person who moved at 85% pace consistently made 12 months of progress in a year. Slower pace, more total distance. That's the paradox. There's actual science behind this. Sports researchers studied elite athletes. They compared 2 groups. Group A trained at 100% intensity, maximum effort, every session, no exceptions. Group B trained at 85% intensity, hard, but with margin, sustainable. After 6 months, Group B outperformed Group A across every metric. Strength, speed, endurance, skill. Why? Because Group B recovered properly. Adaptation happened during recovery, not during training. Group A never recovered. They just accumulated damage. Their bodies couldn't adapt. They were always in survival mode. So despite maximum effort, they got minimum results. This applies to goals too. If you're giving 100% to your goal every single day, you're headed for burnout. Not maybe. Definitely. You need margin. buffer, recovery. This doesn't mean being lazy. It means being strategic. Work hard 5 days, rest completely 2 days, sprint for 3 weeks, recover for 1 week, go deep for 3 months, back off for 2 weeks. This rhythm is what allows long-term high performance. I call it the 85% rule. Never give 100%. Always leave 15% in the tank. This feels wrong. It feels like you're not trying hard enough. But it's actually how you maximize total output over time. Because the person who works at 85% for 5 years will accomplish 10 times more than the person who works at 100% for 6 months and quits. Consistency beats intensity. Duration beats effort. Sustainability beats heroics. Here's the practical implementation. Build rest into your system from the beginning. Don't wait until you're exhausted and then rest. That's too late. Schedule rest preemptively. 1 rest day per week. Non-negotiable. 1 lighter week per month. 1 recovery phase per quarter. This isn't weakness. It's strategy. The best athletes in the world do this. The best entrepreneurs do this. The best performers in every field do this. Because they understand, recovery is when growth happens. Effort breaks you down. Recovery builds you back up stronger. Without recovery, you just break down. Let me give you a reframe. Rest is not the absence of work. Rest is part of the work. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. If you want to achieve a big goal, you need to be functional for the entire journey, not just motivated for the first month. So protect your sustainability like your life depends on it, because your goal depends on it. Strategic laziness. I'm going to tell you something controversial now. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is nothing. I call it strategic laziness, and it's one of the most misunderstood concepts in achievement. Strategic laziness is not procrastination. Procrastination is avoiding what needs to be done. Strategic laziness is intentionally not doing things that don't need to be done. Big difference. Most people confuse activity with progress. They think, I should be doing something, anything. I can't just sit here. So they do busy work, fake work, low-leverage activities. They feel productive, but they're not progressing. Strategic laziness says, if it's not high leverage, don't do it, even if that means doing nothing. Here's an example. You're building a business. You have a choice. Option A, spend 3 hours redesigning your website. Option B, do nothing and take a walk. Most people choose option A, because doing something feels better than doing nothing. But redesigning the website doesn't acquire customers. It doesn't increase revenue. It's low leverage. Option B seems lazy. But the walk clears your head, gives you perspective. You come back with a better strategy. The walk was more productive than the busy work. That's strategic laziness. Warren Buffett talks about this. He says, the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. Really successful people are strategically lazy. They don't take every opportunity. They don't say yes to every meeting. They don't work on every idea. They do very few things. But those few things matter enormously. And the rest of the time, they do nothing. They read. They think. They rest. They wait for the right opportunity. That's not laziness. That's wisdom. Here's the tactical advice. Before you start any task, ask yourself, is this high leverage? If yes, do it with full focus. If no, seriously consider not doing it at all, even if it feels like you should be doing something, because doing low-leverage work is worse than doing nothing. At least doing nothing conserves energy for high-leverage work later. Doing low-leverage work burns energy and produces nothing. It's negative ROI. The 1% have mastered this. They're not busy. They're selective. They're not always working. They're always working on the right things. And when there's nothing right to work on, they do nothing. They trust that space, rest, and patience are part of the process. This is hard for ambitious people to accept. We're conditioned to believe that more effort equals more results. But past a certain point, more effort equals diminishing returns. At some point, the best move is to stop, rest, Wait. Think. That's strategic laziness, and it's a superpower. The asymmetric bet. Let me close this act with one final concept: the asymmetric bet. This is how the 1% think about decisions, and it's completely different from how most people think. Most people make symmetric bets. A symmetric bet has equal upside and downside. If this works, I gain X. If it doesn't, I lose X. Symmetric bets are fine, but they don't create breakout results. The 1% look for asymmetric bets, where the upside is enormous and the downside is minimal. If this works, I gain 10X. If it doesn't, I lose 0.1X. That's asymmetry. Let me give you examples. Starting a business is an asymmetric bet. Downside: you spend nights and weekends for 6 months, maybe lose a few $1,000s. If it fails, you learn valuable skills and go back to your job. Upside: you build $1 million business, financial freedom, time freedom. You change your entire life. The upside is 100 times the downside. That's asymmetric. Another example: sending a cold email to someone you admire. Downside: they don't respond. You wasted 5 minutes. Upside: they respond. You build a relationship. That relationship opens doors, changes your career trajectory. The upside is 1,000 times the downside. Asymmetric. Learning a high-value skill. Downside: you spend 3 months focused on learning instead of consuming Netflix. Upside: you have a skill for life. That skill increases your income, creates opportunities, compounds for decades. Asymmetric. Most people avoid asymmetric bets because they focus on the downside. What if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if I waste time? They're so afraid of the minimal downside that they never access the massive upside. The 1% think differently. They ask, what's the worst that could happen? If the worst is tolerable, they take the bet. Because they understand expected value. If you take 10 asymmetric bets and 9 fail, but 1 works, you still win massively. That's how fortunes are built. Careers are made, lives are changed, not through safe symmetric bets, through bold asymmetric bets. Here's how you apply this to your goal. Look for opportunities where the downside is capped and the upside is unlimited, where failure costs little but success changes everything. Then take those bets. Aggressively. Most people play not to lose, the 1% play to win. And winning requires asymmetry. You now understand leverage, the 80-20 principle, the leverage matrix, keystone habits, second-order goals. You understand compounding, the power of 1% daily. You understand sustainability, the 85% rule, strategic laziness. You understand asymmetric bets, how to maximize upside while minimizing downside. This is how you achieve 10 times more with the same effort. This is the asymmetry. But knowledge without a system to implement it is useless. So in the final act, we're going to build the algorithm, your personal operating system, the meta framework that governs everything. This is where all the pieces come together. This is where you become self-optimizing. Let's finish this. Act 5. The algorithm. You've learned why you've been failing. You've identified your one goal. You've done the inner work. You've built systems, designed your environment, created your execution engine. You've learned leverage, how to work asymmetrically, how to compound your efforts. But here's the question nobody asks. How do you maintain all of this? How do you keep improving? How do you prevent yourself from sliding back into old patterns? The answer is, you build an algorithm, not a system for achieving one goal, a system for continuously optimizing everything, a personal operating system that evolves with you. This is the algorithm. And in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how to build one that lasts a lifetime. What is an algorithm? Let me start by defining what I mean by algorithm. In computer science, an algorithm is a set of rules that solves a problem. You input data. The algorithm processes it. You get an output. Every time, automatically. No thinking required. Your life should work the same way. Right now, you're making hundreds of decisions every day from scratch. Should I work out? Should I work on my goal? Should I say yes to this opportunity? Every decision burns willpower, creates decision fatigue, opens the door for your present self to win. An algorithm removes that. You decide once, then you execute forever. Here's a simple example. Let's say you want to read more. Without an algorithm, every night you decide, should I read tonight? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It's inconsistent. With an algorithm, you create a rule. Every night at 9 p.m., after I put my phone in another room, I read for 30 minutes before sleep. Now there's no decision. The algorithm runs automatically. Phone goes in other room. You read. Every night, the algorithm made the decision for you. That's one algorithm. But the 1% don't just have one algorithm. They have dozens. Algorithms for work, for health, for relationships, for learning, for money. And they have a meta-algorithm that governs all the individual algorithms. It's a system that optimizes systems. That's what we're building now, your personal operating system, the review rhythm. The foundation of any operating system is feedback loops. You need to know what's working and what's not. Without feedback, you're flying blind. With feedback, you course correct continuously. So we're going to build what I call the review rhythm, a set of practices at different time scales that keep you optimized. The daily reflection. Every evening, 5 minutes before sleep, not negotiable. This is the most important 5 minutes of your day. You're going to answer 3 questions. Question 1. Did I move toward my goal today? Not, did I have a perfect day? Just, did I move forward? Even 1%? If yes, acknowledge it. That's a win. If no, why not? What got in the way? No judgment, just data. Question 2. What's one thing I did well today? This is important. Your brain naturally focuses on what went wrong, so you have to intentionally focus on what went right. One thing you're proud of. One decision future self would thank you for. Write it down. This builds evidence that you're becoming the person you want to be. Question 3. What's one thing I'll do better tomorrow? Not 10 things. One thing, specific, actionable. Tomorrow I'll start my deep work at 6 a.m. instead of 7. Tomorrow I'll prepare my gym clothes tonight so there's no friction in the morning. One adjustment, one experiment, that's it. 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes compound into self-awareness, continuous improvement, and sustained progress. Most people never reflect. They just repeat the same day over and over, wondering why nothing changes. The 1% reflect daily. They're not just doing, they're learning. They're treating their life like a scientist treats an experiment. Hypothesis, test, data, adjust, repeat. That's how you get better every single day. The weekly CEO meeting. Second, the weekly CEO meeting. We covered this briefly in Act 3. Now I'm going to give you the full version. Every Sunday, 30 minutes. Non-negotiable. You're the CEO of your life. This is your board meeting with yourself. Here's the agenda. Part 1. Review the week. Look at your one goal. Look at your 3 numbers: input, throughput, output. Did they go up, down, stay flat? What caused the change? Be specific, not I had a good week or I had a bad week. I hit my input target 4 out of 5 days because I woke up on time. My throughput dropped because I got distracted by low-leverage tasks. Data, not feelings. Part 2. Identify what worked. What systems, habits, or decisions produced results this week? Write them down. Then ask, how can I do more of this next week? If working out at 6 a.m. worked, lock that in. If batching emails at 2 p.m. saved time, do that again. Double down on what works. Part 3. Identify what didn't work. What got in the way? What slowed you down? What needs to change? Again, no judgment, just observation. I stayed up late 3 nights watching Netflix. That killed my morning routine. I said yes to 2 meetings that didn't matter. That burned 4 hours. Now ask, what's the experiment for next week? Next week, I'll put my phone in another room at 9 p.m. Next week, I'll decline any meeting that doesn't directly relate to my primary goal. 1 or 2 experiments, not 10. Part 4. Plan the week ahead. Look at your calendar. Identify your high-leverage activities for the week. Schedule them first. Protect that time like your life depends on it. Then fill in the rest. But the key activities are locked in first. This is called calendar blocking, and it's the difference between a reactive week and a proactive week. Most people let their calendar happen to them. The 1% design their calendar intentionally. That's the weekly CEO meeting, 30 minutes every Sunday. This alone will put you ahead of 99% of people, because you're not just working, you're strategizing. The monthly algorithm update. Third, the monthly algorithm update. Once a month, usually the last Sunday of the month, you go deeper. 60 minutes. This is where you update your algorithms. Here's what you're looking for. What assumptions did I have at the start of the month that are now wrong? What worked last month that might not work this month? What new information do I have that changes my approach? Your algorithms are not set in stone. They should evolve as you evolve. As circumstances change, as you learn. So every month you audit them. Go through each major area of your life: work, health, relationships, learning, money. For each area, ask, is my current algorithm still serving me? Is there a better way to do this? What would I change if I were starting from scratch today, for example? Maybe your algorithm for work is deep work from 6 to 9 a.m. every day. That worked great in January, but now it's March. Daylight is different. Your energy patterns shifted. Maybe deep work from 7 to 10 a.m. would work better now. Update the algorithm. Or maybe your algorithm for fitness is gym 5 days a week, but you're feeling burned out. The 85% rule says you need more recovery. Update the algorithm to gym 4 days a week, 1 active recovery day. Your algorithms should be stable enough to create consistency, but flexible enough to adapt to reality. Monthly updates give you that balance. You're not changing things every day. That's chaos. But you're also not locked into a system that stopped working. That's rigidity. You're finding the middle path, stable yet adaptive. The quarterly red team. Fourth, the quarterly red team. Every 3 months, you attack yourself. 90 minutes. This is the most intense review. Here's the concept. In military and security, red teaming is when you hire people to attack your systems, to find weaknesses, to expose vulnerabilities. You're going to do this to your own goal system. Pretend you're trying to sabotage yourself. What would you do? Ask yourself these questions. What's the biggest threat to my goal right now? If I were trying to make myself fail, what would I exploit? What am I avoiding looking at? What's the hard truth I'm not facing? Is this goal still the right goal? What would I do differently if I started today with everything I know now? This is uncomfortable. That's the point. Most people avoid these questions because they're scared of the answers. But the 1%, ask them proactively. Because if there's a flaw in your system, you want to find it before it destroys you. Better to face hard truths in a quarterly review than to face catastrophic failure 6 months later. Here's what often happens in a quarterly red team. You realize you're pursuing the wrong goal, so you pivot. Or you realize your systems are working, but you're not following them, so you recommit. Or you realize you're burned out and need a recovery phase, so you schedule it. Or you realize you've been avoiding the hardest part of the goal, so you face it. These realizations are gold. They save you months or years of wasted effort. But you only get them if you're willing to ask hard questions. The annual recalibration. Fifth, the annual recalibration. Once a year, you step back and look at the entire picture. This is a half-day exercise, 3 to 4 hours. Ideally, somewhere quiet, away from distractions. You're going to ask the biggest questions. Am I still the same person I was a year ago? Are my goals still aligned with my values? What do I want the next year of my life to look like? If I achieved everything I'm working toward, would I be happy? What needs to change? This is where you redesign your life if necessary. Maybe a year ago you wanted financial freedom. Now you realize you want impact more than money. That changes everything. Your goal shifts. Your systems shift. Maybe a year ago you were single. Now you're in a relationship. Your priorities changed. Your algorithms need to reflect that. Or maybe a year ago you were in survival mode. Now you're in growth mode. Different phase, different approach. The annual recalibration is not about incremental improvement. It's about asking, am I still on the right path? Because the worst thing you can do is climb the ladder efficiently only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. Better to check once a year, course correct if needed, then climb with confidence. So that's the review rhythm. Daily reflection, 5 minutes. Weekly CEO meeting, 30 minutes. Monthly algorithm update, 60 minutes. Quarterly red team, 90 minutes. Annual recalibration, 3 to 4 hours. Total time investment per year, about 30 hours. That's less than 1% of your waking hours. But it's the 1% that ensures the other 99% are spent effectively. This is the meta-algorithm, the system that optimizes all other systems. The evolution path. Now let's talk about something critical. You are not static, you're evolving. And your approach to goals should evolve with you. What works for a beginner doesn't work for a master. What works in survival mode doesn't work in growth mode. You need to understand where you are on the evolution path and adjust your systems accordingly. There are 5 stages. Let me walk you through each one. Stage 1. Novice. Stage 1 is novice. You're brand new. Everything is unfamiliar. You don't know what you're doing. Your job at this stage, show up. Build the habit. Don't worry about results yet. The goal is not to be good. The goal is to be consistent. If your goal is fitness, your job is to go to the gym. Not to lift heavy, just to show up. If your goal is business, your job is to do something every day. Not to make money yet, just to build the practice. At this stage, volume matters more than quality. You're building the foundation, the neural pathways, the identity. Timeline, first 2 to 3 months. Common mistakes, expecting expert results. Comparing yourself to people who've been doing this for years. Quitting because you're not good yet. What to focus on? Consistency, repetition, showing up no matter what. Stage 2, practitioner. Stage 2 is practitioner. You've built the habit. Now you're refining technique. You know the basics, but you're not great yet. Your job at this stage, study what works. Eliminate what doesn't. Start optimizing. This is where you implement the 80-20 principle. Which activities move the needle? Do more of those. Which activities are wasted effort? Cut them. At this stage, you start seeing real results. Not massive, but real. You're no longer a beginner. You're competent. Timeline, months 3 through 9. Common mistakes, staying in your comfort zone. Not pushing into the next level of difficulty. Getting complacent. What to focus on? Efficiency, technique, incremental improvement. Stage 3, professional. Stage 3 is professional. You're good now. People notice. You're in the top 20%. Your job at this stage, scale, increase volume, go from good to great. You've figured out what works. Now you do more of it. If you're building a business, this is when you hire. Automate, systemize. If you're developing a skill, this is when you practice at high volume. This stage is about leverage and compounding. You're not learning new fundamentals anymore. You're multiplying what you've already learned. Timeline, months 9 through 18. Common mistakes, plateauing, not pushing into discomfort anymore. Coasting. What to focus on? Volume, systems, leverage. Stage 4, expert. Stage 4 is expert. You've mastered the fundamentals. Now you're innovating. You're in the top 5%, maybe top 1%. Your job at this stage, Find your unique edge. Do it your way. You're no longer following someone else's system. You're creating your own. You understand the principles deeply enough to bend the rules, to experiment, to innovate. This is where your personality and your skill merge. Timeline: years 2 through 5. Common mistakes: thinking you've arrived, stopping learning. Ego: what to focus on. Innovation: teaching others, creating your methodology. Stage 5. Master. Stage 5 is master. It's intuitive now. You don't think, you execute. You're in the top 0.1%. Your job at this stage: refine the art, mentor others, contribute to the field. You've transcended technique. You operate from a place of deep understanding and intuition. Timeline: year 5 and beyond. Common mistakes: complacency, losing the beginner's mind, forgetting what it was like to struggle. What to focus on: mastery, legacy, teaching. Here's why this matters. If you're a novice and you're trying to use expert-level strategies, you'll fail. You need novice strategies. Simple, consistent, focused on habit building. If you're a professional and you're still using novice strategies, you'll plateau. You need professional strategies. Leverage, systems, scale. Know your stage. Use stage-appropriate strategies. Don't skip stages. Each one builds the foundation for the next. Respect the process. The self-optimizing system. Now I want to show you how all of this comes together. How you build a system that improves itself automatically. A self-optimizing system. Most people have static systems. They create a routine. It works for a while. Then it stops working. But they keep doing it anyway because that's the system. Eventually, the system breaks. They give up. Start over. The 1% have dynamic systems. Systems that adapt, that evolve, that improve themselves. How? Through feedback loops. Here's the structure of a self-optimizing system. Step 1. Set a clear metric. You need one number that represents success. For fitness, body fat percentage. For business, monthly revenue. For learning, skills mastered. One number. This is your scoreboard. Step 2. Track inputs and outputs. Inputs: what you're doing. Outputs: what results you're getting. Every week, log both. I worked out 4 times. Body fat dropped 0.3%. I made 10 sales calls, closed 2 deals. Revenue up 15%. You're creating data. Step 3. Analyze the relationship. Every month, look at the data. Which inputs correlate with the best outputs? When you worked out 5 times instead of 4, what happened? When you made 15 sales calls instead of 10, what changed? You're finding the leverage points. Step 4. Adjust the system. Based on the data, change one variable. If working out 5 times produced better results, make that the new baseline. If sales calls after 2 p.m. had higher conversion, schedule all calls after 2 p.m. One change. Test for a month. Step 5. Repeat. Next month, analyze again. Adjust again. The system is continuously improving based on real data, not based on what should work, based on what actually works for you. This is self-optimization. Most people never do this. They guess. They follow someone else's system. They hope. The 1% measure. They test. They know. And over time, their systems become incredibly refined, tailored specifically to them, to their strengths, to their constraints. That's unfair advantage, not because they're smarter, because they're more systematic about learning what works. The decision algorithms. Now let's build some practical algorithms you can implement immediately. These are decision-making frameworks for common situations, pre-made decisions so you never have to think about them again. The morning algorithm. Every morning, same sequence, no decisions, just execution. Here's mine. Yours might be different, but the point is, it's predetermined. Alarm goes off at 5:30 a.m. Feet hit the floor within 10 seconds. No snooze, no negotiation. Drink 16 ounces of water immediately. 5 minutes of movement, stretching or light exercise. wakes up the body. 10 minutes of reading, something educational or inspirational, wakes up the mind. 30 minutes of deep work on primary goal, before the world wakes up. Cold shower. 3 minutes, resets everything. Breakfast. Same thing every day. High protein. No decision fatigue. By 7 a.m., I've won the day. That's an algorithm. Runs automatically. No willpower required. The opportunity algorithm. Someone offers you an opportunity. A project, a meeting, a collaboration. How do you decide? Most people agonize. Go back and forth. Waste mental energy. Here's the algorithm. Ask 3 questions. Question 1. Does this directly advance my primary goal? If no, decline immediately. If yes, question 2. Do I have the time and energy to do this at a high level? If no, decline. Better to say no than to do it poorly. If yes, question 3. Will I regret not doing this? If no, decline. There are infinite opportunities. You don't need this one. If yes, accept. 3 questions. Clear yes or no. Decision made in 30 seconds. No agonizing, no second guessing. The distraction. Algorithm. You're working. Something pulls your attention. An email, a notification, a thought. How do you handle it? Algorithm. Ask, is this more important than what I'm doing right now? 99% of the time, the answer is no. So you ignore it. Stay focused. If the answer is yes, ask, does this require immediate action or can it wait? Most things can wait. So you write it down on a capture list and return to your work. You'll handle it later during your designated time for email, messages, and admin tasks. The algorithm protects your focus. The social algorithm. Someone invites you to a social event. How do you decide whether to go? Algorithm. Ask, will this energize me or drain me? If drain, decline unless it's obligatory. If energize, ask, is this the best use of my time right now given my goals? If no, decline graciously. If yes, accept. Simple, clear, no guilt. Because the 1% understand that every yes to something is a no to something else. They protect their time and energy ruthlessly. These are just examples. You can build algorithms for everything. Exercise, meals, money, learning, relationships. The more decisions you automate, the more willpower you preserve for things that actually matter. The integration. We're almost done. Let me show you how everything we've covered integrates into one complete system. Your personal operating system. Foundation. You've identified your one goal. You know who you need to become. You've done the identity work. Architecture. You've built systems, designed your environment, created your execution engine. Asymmetry. You've identified your 20%, your keystone habits, your second-order goals. Algorithm. You've built review rhythms, decision algorithms, a self-optimizing system. Now imagine running this system for a year. Every day, you follow your morning algorithm. Win the first hour. Every evening, you do your 5-minute reflection. Build self-awareness. Every week, you have your CEO meeting. Strategize and adjust. Every month, you update your algorithms based on data. Every quarter, you red team yourself. Find weaknesses before they break you. Every year, you recalibrate. Make sure you're still on the right path. What happens over a year? You don't just achieve your goal. You become a completely different person. Someone who executes consistently. Someone who learns continuously. Someone who optimizes relentlessly. Someone who can achieve anything they set their mind to. Because you're not just achieving one goal. You're building the capacity to achieve any goal. That's the real prize. Let me close with this. You now have everything you need. The frameworks, the systems, the strategies. You understand why you failed before and how to succeed now. You have a complete blueprint. But here's the truth. None of this matters if you don't act. Information without implementation is just entertainment. You've just spent 2.5 hours watching this. That's valuable time. Time you invested in yourself. But the real test starts when this video ends. The 99% will watch this, feel inspired, and do nothing. They'll go back to their old patterns, their old habits, their old results. And in a year, nothing will have changed. The 1% will watch this and immediately take action. Not perfect action, just action. They'll define their one goal today. They'll do their first daily reflection tonight. They'll schedule their first CEO meeting this Sunday. They'll implement one algorithm this week. And a year from now, they'll be unrecognizable. Not because they had more talent, more resources, more luck, because they acted. So here's my final challenge to you. In the next 72 hours, do 3 things. Thing 1. Write down your one goal. Use the regret minimization framework. Make sure it's truly yours. One goal, crystal clear. Thing 2. Build your first algorithm. Start with the morning algorithm. Decide exactly what you'll do every morning for the next 30 days. Write it down. Commit to it. Thing 3. Schedule your first CEO meeting. This Sunday, 30 minutes. Non-negotiable. Put it in your calendar right now. That's it. 3 things. 72 hours. Anyone can do this. But will you? Because here's what I've learned after studying thousands of people who achieve extraordinary things. The difference between them and everyone else is not talent. It's not intelligence. It's not even hard work. It's the gap between knowing and doing. Most people know what to do. Very few people actually do it. The 1% close that gap. They don't wait for motivation. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't wait for permission. They just start. Messy, imperfect, uncertain, and they figure it out along the way. You've been given a complete system, the 1% goal system, architecture, asymmetry, algorithm, everything you need to achieve anything. The only question left is, will you use it? I believe you will. Because you made it to the end of this video. That alone puts you ahead of 99% of people. Most people quit. Most people get distracted. Most people give up when things get hard. But you didn't. You stayed. You learned. You invested in yourself. That tells me something about you. You're serious. You're committed. You're ready. So go. Take action. Build the system. Win the inner war. Create leverage. Optimize continuously. And become the person you're capable of becoming. Not someday. Starting today. This is your moment. Welcome to the 1%. Before you go, I need to tell you something important. This video took months to create. Not just the recording, the research, the frameworks, the structure. I could have made 10 short videos instead. Videos that get more views, more likes, more algorithm love. But I didn't. Because I'm not interested in views. I'm interested in transformation. And transformation doesn't happen in 10-minute videos. It happens in depth, in completeness, in systems. If this video changed how you think about goals, I need you to do something for me. Not for me, actually. For someone else who needs this. Share this video. Send it to one person who's struggling with their goals right now. Someone who's stuck. Someone who's given up. Someone who needs a new approach. Don't just post it on social media where it gets lost. Send it directly to someone who needs it. Because here's the truth. The 1% don't just achieve for themselves. They lift others up. They share what works. They help others win. That's how you know you've truly internalized this. When you start helping others succeed too. If you want to go deeper, I create content like this regularly on this channel. We talk about mindset, systems, optimization, how to get ahead of 99%. If that interests you, subscribe. And if you implement this system and it works for you, leave a comment. Tell me your one goal. Tell me what you're committing to in the next 72 hours. Because when you declare it publicly, you're more likely to follow through. And I read every comment. I want to know who's actually doing this. One more thing. A year from now, you're going to look back at today. Either you'll think, that was the day everything changed. That was when I finally built the system that made achievement inevitable. Or you'll think, I wish I had actually done something with that information. The choice is yours, but choose now, because another year is going to pass whether you act or not. The only question is, who will you be when it does? Thank you for investing 2.5 hours in yourself. That's a rare thing in a world of short attention spans and instant gratification. You're already different from 99% just by being here. Now go prove it. Build the system, win the war, achieve the goal. I'll see you in the 1%.